All right, guys. Silo Season 2, Episode 5, titled Descent. Tyler, we're going to start with you. What do? Go. What do you think of this episode?
It feels like this season is the pressure cooker, and every episode it's just getting more and more and more tense, and more questions come, and more of the characters are starting to meld together. We get some answers, but we get a lot of questions, and it kept that train going. So we continued to have our view through the two silos. In Silo 17, we've got Jules and Solo trying to get to the bottom of finding a helmet, but that's also leading to Jules uncovering the truth, and a lot of what we've talked about and our listeners have talked about as well, regarding, would a kid really be able to be a shadow? We're starting to get to the bottom of that, but we have Jules in a compromised position, where in the other silo, our main silo 18, we follow our friends from Mechanical as they attempt to descend back down to their floor, but it's not going to be that simple, Dave and Jim. They're going to have to make some new friends, make some new enemies, use a sketchy device to bring
How
themselves.
that thing not break their freaking backs?
That's, yeah, that, I mean,
I was literally thinking
allowing it.
Spider-Man, Gwen Stacy,
yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, they're gonna have to use some real sketchy wires to get down multiple levels at the same time. All while, as viewers, we are seeing a change in the upper boundary, and how Bernard is aligning his cabinet, if you will, with Judge Common now coming to the
Judge
forefront.
Common.
That's going to be so tough to get used to. Judge Common.
Judge Bobby.
Yeah. I feel like the Jules and Solo side of this side of this episode, rather, while maybe a little less screen time than we've become accustomed to, is really important. Where the other silo is more about like we've been doing in these past pods, kind of going character by character and figuring out, okay, what the fuck's Billings doing now? So
Yeah.
let's start with the meat of Jules and Solo. And Dave, talk to me about what your thoughts are with our boy Solo now. How you feeling after that freak out?
Not so great, man. I'm definitely a little worried about our boy Solo and his mental fortitude right now. It seems like he's plummeting fast, but
He's descending.
Yeah. But still, at the end of the day, Steve Zahn has been crushing it. But like you said, T-Money, their screen time, while was maybe the shortest of all the character buckets we're going to cover, I felt like I had the most notes about it. So again, while we are still in Silo 17 with just Jules and Solo, it just feels like we're still getting so much information dumped at us. A lot of it new, a lot of it confirming some old information. And as always, I'm still going to be confused. So I need you guys to walk me through some of these scenes. But
well, you said you got the notes, Dave. So why don't you just empty the clip on us real fast?
We'll start with the first one. So the big question that we never even asked on the podcast last time was, where does the electricity from the silo come from if the entire generator is completely flooded? And we never even thought to consider that, or we did a little bit. We talked a little bit about it.
We just kind of but yeah,
we talked about that mini generator that she had going, but we never really processed what is actually keeping all of the lights going. And we get the reveal that the electricity comes from the IT department's own power source, which comes from the outside. And Solo does this weird pointing of like everything around him, which I took as maybe it's solar power.
That's what I think. Yeah. And to that point, Dave, I know we touched on it in podcast 1. Maybe we could have touched on it more, to be honest, because that type of thing would just be me throwing out bullshit guesses.
Yeah.
I kind of steered away from it because we
know
know
it sounds stupid.
I have felt, I guess, security that the show, I don't think there's many things that happen in the show like that where they don't eventually tell us. But it's a really good point, because that's leverage that in our other silo Mechanical thinks they have, which we now know That leverage is not necessarily as much as they're going for, Jim.
And it also goes into how I was asking in the last episode, why would we just blame Mechanical when it seems like they're the most important part? Well, turns out they're a little. They can be
think
extendable.
They are, but they're not. Yeah,
and all their work that they're doing, I'm sure is doing a great job to keep the silo running, obviously. But at the end of the day, if Mechanical did need to be shut down, it's not the end of the world for the silo.
Well, and not to cut in, Jim, because I want to get your thoughts on it, but Dave, to you, I mean, one of the things I love about doing this podcast is all of the great comments that we field from YouTube and from our Discord server. We did have a comment from one of our listeners on YouTube from 117 Derek, which was, I thought it kind of was going at what Jim and I were talking about with the mechanical piece, but doing a nice job of kind of crystallizing that for us in his comment, where he was really just talking about, like, does make sense. This has kind of been happening for as long as humans have existed. The idea of, exploitation and suppression, essentially colonizing and then using that caste system that's created to the benefit of people like the ones in power, like we're seeing with Bernard, and how they can essentially mobilize half the silo to get rid of a threat in no time. So really do appreciate all the comments from everybody coming in. And I did want to shout out, I thought that was just a great way of saying something that I probably would have waxed poetically about for 7 minutes if it was up to me. But
yeah,
Dave, that's a great point, right? Mechanical is not necessarily, if we got solar power that we're contending with, that generator all of a sudden not as big of a deal as we're thinking about. Jim, what were you about to say?
Yeah, it's interesting to talk about the whole scenario with Mechanical and their importance versus now that we know that there's the solar energy, solar powered, whatever they have set up above ground. We know that there's a weakness for a moment in time, depending on how long that moment is. We don't know yet. But when Mechanical shuts it down, everything shuts down. We see what's quote unquote really on the screen or not really on the screen, depending on who's looking at it, right? If you're a citizen or if you're someone who actually knows. So shutting down is not what they want at all to happen. But yes, there is a generator. It is very interesting to know that the backup solar powered energy exists. Again, it's always going to be known as backup. They obviously would want the generator, the full generator, to be working, I would assume, because if something happens to the solar panels outside, how are you going to get that taken care of?
Yeah, and there's
a
good point. I mean, Solo is one person that's powering himself in the silo,
with everything else shut down, pretty much.
Yeah, I doubt that the solar power is going to be able to.
Right, we don't know. It was never said in our silo that our Silo 18's solar energy panels are working. We know that something shut down, obviously, from season 1, and that was the big reveal where the screen changed and blah, blah, blah. If we find out that the solar panels, the solar energy isn't working in Silo 18, that's obviously a big deal. But to the point, I think it is very, very telling that Mechanical isn't as important as we all have always thought. Now, like you said, Tyler, Solo by himself, maybe with a few others. There's no hints to that really this episode, but maybe
we're gonna have to table that one. But
yeah, powering up whatever they need to power up to be able to live as one person isn't the same as 10,000 people in a silo. So we don't know how strong those backup generators actually are. I love that you were shouting out some of our YouTube members. We are going to also talk about some Discord shout outs. I have some to bring up during our solo conversation, but we haven't got there yet, so I'll wait to shout. Dave, you said it last episode. T-Money asked you immediately what your thoughts on Solo were, and you said he has some dirty little secrets, right? The secrets are getting darker and darker. My thoughts and my question to the two of you now. We just thought throughout this entire show so far that Solo was traumatized, childlike, because he was a child when all this went down for him. Very mentally affected by everything that happened to him. never really necessarily thinking that he could be some sort of antagonist. I still don't think I'm going there personally, but with his freak out and the fact that he is lying, what are your thoughts? Dave, I'll start with you because you were the one who had the dirty little secrets line from last episode. What are your thoughts on that? Do you see that from him at all, or do you just think it's the mentally unstable thing that's having him act like this? And yeah, tell me, what do you think? This lie is kind of a big deal.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you. I think I'm not sold that he's gonna be a major antagonist. I think he's just struggling with whatever inner demons that he's had from his past. Although I will say that they can't, I guess, be also one and the same in the sense that I'll just say it now. There was a weird shot. So we find out that the water is constantly rising in Silo 17. So we know that eventually Solo is going to have to be flushed out somehow. They're going to have to drain the water. And Solo wants Jules' help to do that, but she doesn't want to do it because that would commit her to more than a month. I think they said 3 months specifically, or 2 months maybe. I can't remember.
I think they said he has 10 weeks maybe, or 11, or no, I'm sorry, 11 months, 10 or 11 months.
Regardless of the number, it's way bigger than the amount of time that she has to get back to her silo. So she's saying, no, I'm not going to help you with your problem. I need to find a helmet. And we get this weird shot of Solo kind of just standing there looking at the helmet that she has on the table. And then is kind of like flustered and then like follows after her. And it vividly shows Solo like looking at this helmet with like a questionable look on his face. So I think the paranoia is going to make him become, I don't even want to use again the word antagonist, but he's going to be an obstacle for Jules for sure, I think.
So you think that he's going to not necessarily in an antagonistic way, but he's going to try to keep her in this silo?
That is actually the definition of of an antagonist, it seems like to me. So yes, I think he's going to go out of his way to sabotage the suit so that she can help him focus on pumping out the water from the bottom of Silo 17.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think I guess some things I agree with, some things I don't. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the idea wasn't that Jules would necessarily have to stay longer, but she would have to go down deeper in order to help him to stop the drain, right?
She said right. She said it will take a lot longer than the time I have here. And the number Dave was referring to was just how long.
That's how long he has.
Solo
he has 10 months or something to that effect. Right.
It won't take her 10 months to fix it, but she basically was like, I would have to go down. I'm not going down. I'm not fixing it. It would take too long.
She would have to figure out a whole new schematic down there. Look, so we're trying to draw parallels with Solo and Bernard last episode. But obviously it doesn't appear. We don't know if Solo is even related to, or the Solo that we know, should I say? We have to start. I have to start clarifying.
Right, yeah, we actually have to start. Yeah.
We don't know if Steve Zahn's Solo is even related to the actual Solo or the old IT head, but we do know that he did something. He did something that got him in the vault rather than Solo. And he did also mention Trina Samuels, who is the thread throughout that Juliet pulls to eventually find. Trina Samuels is the woman who was in a relationship with the actual Solo. He says when she pulls that thread, I haven't thought about Trina Samuels in a really long time. So he's suppressing some sort of thing that he did in self-preservation. Now, because I'm still going off the fact that he was a child when all of this happened, I just don't see his motives as very nefarious or like, like he's this complete antagonist. But it's very much like he wants her to stay because all he knows is the silo. He now has a friend who he's never had before, and he has someone for the first time that can help him solve his problem, which almost seemed as if he was just counting down on the clock how long he had until he drowned before he met Juliet. But what happens with Juliet's, her wound, which For anybody that hasn't listened to our past pods, her wound on her arm is something that she got when she fell through the trash chute in the finale of season 1, which is a nice tag. You know, it turns out that just putting different pieces of dirty cloth over top of it is not the best way to disinfect that wound. So she's got a real nasty infection. She's rocking a real nasty infection. She's rocking a real nasty infection. And look, I think the end of this episode puts us in a spot where we've got our hero passed out, right? But she's found the helmet. And also, when Solo has his massive freak out that kind of scares her and makes her run off, because she's like, I don't know if she was scared, but she was like, my arm feels like it's about to fall off. My head's pounding, and I got Steve Zahn just up in my face right now. I got to get the fuck out of here. But I'm kind of taking it as we're going to find our heroine awake in the next episode in the vault, because this is kind of the piece of drama that we need to get Steve Zahn to take her into the vault, because potentially there's medicine and things like that in there. And we've talked about it throughout this season. For the show to progress, in my mind, if Solo is not going to get out of the silo with her, then she's going to have to get into the vault and learn all of the secrets of the silo. And I think this is that event. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think we're seeing things the same way. I just don't see him as like a super awful, mean-hearted character. I just see him as like, I think he's a kid. He did something traumatic to screw over Solo and Trina Samuels. Man. I mean, Solo and Trina might be the two bodies that are out there for all we know, because we haven't gotten really an up close of those bodies, right? But it did appear to be a man and a woman.
Right. And obviously that's another one of the scenarios where she asks him and he says, I don't want to talk about it. Right. So I fully agree with you, Tyler and Dave. I mean, you were pretty much going there too. I don't see him being nefarious. I just see like childlike, mentally unstable, traumatized person, maybe has a little temper tantrum, and that was the antagonistic side of him today, and that's probably as far as we'll get. But I think the one thing that we can say, whether he ends up deciding to make the decision that he doesn't want to help or he wants to go against Juliet and have her not leave the silo, whether he helps her, whether he doesn't help her, the one thing he definitely doesn't want is her to die, right? So like you said, Tyler, I agree with you. I think that she will be in the vault, and that's where he'll be able to help her next episode. And from there, maybe she'll be able to get some answers from him, maybe seeing that his new BFF is almost going to be dying might open him up a little bit. So the one thing that I wanted to bring up to you guys was, how did he get his name Solo, right? And there's a lot of great Steve Zahn Solo comedy in this episode too. I mean, he's just been killing it in general, but the main piece of this conversation is that he says Russell's son gave it to me when he thought it was funny that I said, I'm solo, I'm by myself. So they said, okay, that's your new name, or he thought that was my name, so now that's going to be my nickname. Well, what if we've been saying this whole time? What if he's the reverse? What if he is Russell's son and Solo is the other person, right?
That would be my number one on the if I was doing like if you're was a betting man. If I was a betting man, I'd probably put that at plus odds on DraftKings Sportsbook or whatever you use.
Not sponsored.
Not sponsored, but hey,
hopefully.
Yet.
Hit us up.
Wink, DraftKings.
We'll take
Yeah, we'll take whoever wants to give us some money.
The money you give us is just going to go into your app anyway. Like, come on.
We have them setting Apple TV plus odds on things.
Yeah, right.
We're minus 5,000 for Common to win an Emmy this season. Ooh, but I'm bummed. But yeah, I'm with you. Like, it seems like this show doesn't do a lot of like characters that are super important that come out and we just have no idea who they are. So like, while there is the possibility that Steve Zahn's character was just somebody who wandered up from mechanical, and then when shit was hitting the fan was just like, I'm going in this vault, that would be one thing. But Yeah, I think that was the Easter egg that I didn't want to call too much attention to, but I did want to be like, he knows how Solo got his name, and I think he gave Solo his name.
Yes,
So
100%. I
so
agree.
he's just stole his identity or whatever.
I'm gonna do a little nitpick here. I know we usually sometimes do these at the end of the episode, but I'm gonna have a little nitpick here, which
That's
could
fine.
easily become not a nitpick later on in this show. Nitpick of this episode was how quickly things were working in Jules's favor in terms of she knew she needed a helmet. She finds a document that coincidentally says, "Oh,
Yeah,
hey,
yeah.
there's a missing helmet about." And then, oh, later on, she coincidentally stumbles into the right exact apartment that has the helmet.
Yeah.
Unless the missing helmet has like an actual story behind it from when the rebellion originally started in Silo 17, it just felt like, wow, this was just
Yeah.
completely silver platter for Jules here.
I agree with you, and I think the biggest piece of why it was a problem for me was, to Tyler's point when he was talking earlier in the episode about whether he thought Jules was actually scared of Steve's on Solo, which I hate that we have to add this now because
Yeah.
there's two Solos technically, but it's up to your interpretation whether she was actually afraid of how Solo acted or if she was just trying to get the hell out of there because he was just all up in her face and she was feeling like shit. My original take when I was watching it was that she was startled by his reaction, but also feeling like shit. So she was just like, I got to get the hell out of here. A mix of both, whatever. Either way, my original take was she was just trying to get out of there. Like, I didn't think she was trying to go to another employee's residence that might have the helmet. I thought she was just trying to get away from Solo. So in my head, I was like, oh, so she just ran into a residence, fell to the ground, and there's a helmet there. Wow, that's great for her. I'm
Right.
guessing that Tyler or Dave was it that she just went to another residence of an employee and that was just
Yeah, I mean, I think this, and until I finally just crack open these books, I won't be able to tell you. But look, there is a lot of great things that come from an adaptation of a book to a TV show or a movie, which we're seeing play out in this show. I kind of took that personally as like, that's the sort of thing that maybe there's a whole chapter in the book where it's this really well written piece about how she is stitching things together to stumble onto Trina Samuel's name and stumble onto it. But that's not going to make good TV. So we kind of have to speed that up a little bit. But
right.
we do need that to figure out like how she gets a helmet. So we can't remove it. I don't want to like brush it away or brush the nitpick away, Dave, but I do think I agree with you that like, yeah, that seemed really rushed. And whenever we've got a scene in a show when someone's got, the flashlight and we're trying to read with them, it almost seems like to me, the directors are kind of like, let's just move past this. We have to make it make sense, but like, let's just get to where we need to go.
Yeah.
Maybe there'll be more to it. But I think that's just kind of the pitfalls that you sign up for when you adapt a book sometimes.
Yeah.
That's my thoughts at least. But I do think it's fair.
Could redeem it if for whatever reason the helmet does end up being important.
Yeah, we might get a flashback and we see like the helmet getting dropped by whoever did it.
It could have been a Trina Samuels. There could be a total connection between Trina Samuels and the helmet and the actual Solo. Who knows?
I actually fully expect there to be an explanation of why the helmet's hidden. I just don't like that she just stumbled upon it. It was just weirdly written to me. My nitpick is more about the fact that she stumbles upon the room, looks under the bed as she's passing out, and there's the helmet. Again, I can see it if you want to tell me Jules is so smart that when she ran away from Solo, she has another employee's residence number in her head, and she just kind of went with her intuition and went to that room, and that's where she ran to.
Well, Jim, Dave, we are halfway through the season, so I think it's probably time that we make the SOS call out to our boy Hugh Howey because he's the person that's going to be able to.
And speaking of Hugh Howey, we've had and Discord YouTube members, any of you guys hit us up, but I do recall, I believe it was Hugh when we interviewed him, and also some members of the Discord said that a big thing that he kind of regrets or something that couldn't have been adapted or could have been adapted better in season 1, which is freaking a huge deal, was the heat tape. Remember, we kind of were like saying, oh, heat tape, like at the last second. I believe it was Hugh that was like, yeah, it was a bigger deal in the books. So
Exactly.
it could be a similar thing
That's
like that.
kind of that's exactly what I was anchored to when I was thinking about this, where we were like, it was kind of like the finale for us was a little womp womp. It was like, oh, the heat tape that we really didn't think about the whole like that much.
Right.
And Hugh was like, yeah, that was built up a little bit more in the book. Keeping us on task though, guys.
Yeah, do it.
I'm good there on the. Other than that, I'm good on the Jules solo comments.
I think our analysis of Solo last pod is starting to become more true. And to me, it was funny watching this episode with my wife in the very beginning when like some stuff happens and he's talking about like how he got his name. I'm like, oh god damn it, the son gave him the name. Like it's not him. And then like, and then we're both like, man, I totally bungled that. Then later in the episode, we're like, like we are right.
Yeah,
still.
we're back, baby.
So actually, there is one more thing that I wanted to reference is the we did get Solo's real name, Cole Myers. I don't know if that was the other Solo's name, which I don't think it was.
Yeah, I believe that's the real.
Yeah,
I think actually for the sake of this pod to help us out and all of our listeners out, let's say Cole Myers. We're just going to call Cole Myers is the guy who's got fucking bamboozled by Solo, the Solo that we know. Okay. So OG Solo is Cole Myers who got straight bamboozled.
The other thing I wanted to bring up too was the reference to Romeo and Juliet and how the story ending was different in Silo 17 and 18. Just wonder if that's going to be like symbolic of some of the events that happen later in the season. I can't off the top of my head think of like a love story that would involve two people like having to kill themselves, unless it was like somehow for Jules and like Lucas. Like I have no idea, like star-crossed lovers destined to never be together. I don't know.
I took it as revisionist history kind of thing, depending on if Solo is reading Romeo and Juliet from the vault or from a book that actually exists in Silo 17.
That's how I took it. It's like he's reading the actual Romeo and Juliet in the vault, and that's that good that. Who knows? Maybe our girl Jules about to get that access to it finally. It's like she's been waiting in line for an exclusive club all season, and all she needed to do was show the gross half of her arm, and now she's the doors are swinging open and she's in.
And then Solo's like, all right, we're gonna watch Romeo and Juliet with Leonardo DiCaprio. It's a great freaking flick. And then after that, we're gonna watch Saving Silverman. I star in this.
Yeah, they've got Saving Silverman in the vault. It's just one of the.
Is there a chance that Solo isn't the one to rescue her? Is there a chance that some of the other people that we've been theorizing out in the silo rescue her?
That is, we'd be remiss if we didn't, for all we know, Trina Samuels is the one.
Yeah.
I do think at this point that if there is somebody else in the silo with them, it's going to be one of the names that's been thrown out. But it is also fair to say that I'm almost positive that Cole Myers, the OG Solo, is the guy. The guy in the picture is the guy in the first episode that we see the head of IT go to him and say, like, get to the vault, like blah blah blah. So
okay, I like that.
Just piecing that together for us. But now let's go to our star-crossed lovers over in our silo 18, our main squeeze silo, as I like to call it. I don't want to breeze over anybody, but I'm going to go with Bernard first because this was a Tim Robbins heavy episode, which everybody listening knows this podcast you can't go wrong with some heavy Tim Robbins.
Right.
I'm going to go with the fact that this show is just not really about foreplay in the sense that you're like, we're leaving the last episode like, man, there's going to be some conflict between Sims and Bernard. I wonder how that's going to play out. And like before the credits roll, Bernard just finds Sims and he's just like, you're not going to be my shadow. Fuck you. And now you're the judge. What's good? I literally felt like that was how this episode started.
He's literally Al Pacino in The Godfather kissing him on the face. He's like, I knew it was you.
I'm going to go with three main moves that Bernard is doing in this episode, and we're going to go through them one at a time, but I'll lay them out. The first being his rearranging of his cabinet, if you will, in getting Armisen, who he does that. Armisen does have some scenes in, some throwaway scenes where he's deferring to Sims in season 1, but we get him being promoted to the new Sims. We get Sims becoming the new Judge Meadows. And then we've got, so that's one, his cabinet moves. Two is his idea that he could potentially lean on Pete Nichols, which Pete Nichols ain't fucking with that shit.
Love it. Ride or die Pete Nichols.
And day. Last but not least, which was called out by Sarlos Oblivion in our Discord, who's doing a good job of reading the next episode trailers. And he did call out the fact that this episode says Lucas and Bernard team up to do some research. And it's like, he made a play with some of the information that he has to involve Lucas and try and get him on his side. So let's start with his cabinet moves, Jim. What were your thoughts on his strategic moves here?
Ownage. I like what he did to Sims. I'll take it. Sims is now Meadows when Meadows was drinking and not caring about anything. She was the pawn because she allowed herself to be the pawn because she basically shut herself away. Sims is now nobody to the silo except a figurehead, somebody that they go to when they need to sign some papers, they need an authority figure, something like that. So Bernard did what he could do to own him, but obviously not publicly send him outside to clean or take him fully out of the picture. He's still in the picture, but he's not any figure of authority in a way that will harm our main characters for now, because we'll talk about that. But yeah, and obviously Sims took it as a huge slight. So did his wife. And I like New Sims as the guy's name because I didn't write down his full name for some reason, but I like New Sims. Armisen. Yeah.
Newson.
There's a lot.
We get we're seeing the comments about the name confusion. I get it. First and foremost, that's just the way I roll, so I can't change it too much. But I will draw the line at New Sims before I completely confuse it.
Yeah, no. See, I think the problem is when the nicknames they might be funny, but they don't make sense to the show. New Sims, you know what New Sims is. All right. We have a New Sims and that's it. So everybody, if you got a problem with New Sims and you got a problem with us, all right. So, but let us know. So
I had his name as Rick Astley the whole time because it's Rick Amundsen. So I was just like Rick A. There we go.
Yeah, we're just Rick rolling people.
Yeah,
we're getting Rick rolled right now.
The whole podcast was just cue the song right now, insert song, and end podcast.
That's a good. I like that.
The conversation with Sims and his wife, hilarious, because the son is like, "Mommy, there's somebody in the kitchen," and Bernard's like, "Yeah, I heard that whole thing, man. I heard the whole thing, bro."
Yeah. Yeah, they're like, oh man, they're like plotting, and he's just like, "The fuck's going on here? Like, grab
trying to make some coffee here. I hear you guys.
Grab your goddamn pact and let's just get this shit over with. Like, you're not my shadow. You're not going to be the next fucking head of IT. Like, fuck you. You're out."
Yep.
And Dave, I guess from your end, not to jump around too much, but what were your first impressions of our boy Rick A?
Rick Astley.
Yeah, the new Solo. The new Sims. I can't even keep it all straight. Armisen. What were your impressions of Armisen? How's he doing is in his best Sims impersonation?
He is such a pushover, even more so than Sims. Like Sims, obviously, was like eager to do whatever Bernard told him to do, but this guy he just curls up in his little ball and he's like, "Please don't hurt me, Bernard. I'll do whatever you want." Like Sims at least had some like oomph behind his actions, but this guy, I'm not vibing with him. And I think Sims
he doesn't have the leather jacket the same. I mean, it's not the same.
Yeah, how can you even do? I thought that when he demoted Sims, he was going to take the leather jacket.
Give me the jacket.
Give me the jacket.
Jacket now.
Hands it over.
I wonder if Sims is going to have like hatred for Amundsen just because his wife's obviously been in his ear so much, and it's actually been very noticeable for me at this point. Like I kind of always brushed aside her interactions with Sims, and I didn't think of her as too big of a role, but I'm kind of now thinking that she might have some like bigger plays here at hand, because also she was the one, I'm jumping the gun here a little bit, but she was the one navigating Knox and Shirley and all them to floor 73 or whatever it was. And it's like, what is this woman doing? Like she's feeding Common all these ideas, and it's kind of like Inception, where he's like, oh, this is my idea, but it's really her, the one planning the idea. And then she's out here doing her own thing. So I think
let's put a pin in Camille, because I want to not to get too far ahead of myself, but I'm giving Camille an own section of this pod because of what you're saying right there, Dave. So
that's fine.
And great point. It's a great point. So if we move on just quickly, Pete Nichols, we're bringing Pete Nichols in, right? And it's almost like the test, because we know Bernard is having him watched, and Pete Nichols, to his own point, is trying to reclaim some of his own dignity, his own ability in being able to actually use his medical training to help individuals, rather than just lie to them about whether or not they can get pregnant, which was impactful. But Bernard is almost bringing him in and putting Jules' stuff in front of him as kind of like what am I going to get out of this guy? I've been watching him. I don't really know where he stands. Well, he fucking knows where he stands now. I'll tell you that right now. I mean, Jim, I don't want to get, I mean, I don't think that there's too much to say here, but Ian Glenn, the actor who plays Pete Nichols, who I like to think that there's probably a high crossover of people watching Silo and people that watch Game of Thrones, but I have enjoyed his character throughout both seasons. And I think he really just nails his monologue here. But what were your thoughts on it, Jim?
I want to name him from now on Sir Peter Nichols, off our boy Sir Jorah Mormont, because
just went in there and punched him in the teeth. I loved it.
Yeah, he's got that dignity. He's got his honor, right? So he had a great speech with Bernard, and to your point, Tyler, it could have gone a few ways, right? Bernard was hoping that the way that it was going to go was that Sir Peter Nichols was going to say, all right, I'll do what's best for the silo, and kind of take Bernard's side here, right?
Yeah, bend the knee.
And bend the knee. Jeez, man, you're doing it for me, right?
Love that.
So,
love that.
For the silo, bend the knee, right? And it couldn't have gone any worse for Bernard. And I loved it. That's exactly what we wanted from Peter Nichols. Sir Peter Nichols, we've known from him since we've met him, for the most part, when the reveal is actually made who he really is. We've known who he is. We've known that he's a man of honor and all of that, but Bernard didn't. And that, again, is to your point, Tyler. He's been testing him. He's been watching him, and Dr. Nichols has been doing pretty well at kind of not necessarily being in the shadows, but just being even keeled in a way where you can't read him from the cameras, things like that, right? So the test came, and Sir Peter Nichols passed for us, failed for Bernard. Didn't fail in a way where Bernard probably doesn't think he needs to do anything drastic, but still, I thought it was phenomenal line. Like, the silo took everything from me. It took my wife, my son, now my daughter. It's took my dignity, took my medical license, basically everything. It's taken everything. I don't have anything else to lose. So what are you going to take from me to make me bend the knee?
Yeah.
That's all I need to say about Sir Peter Nichols. And I thought it was great.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing that he did do is, now if there's an unexplained pregnancy, Bernard's just going to go, boom. Sir Peter Nichols. Bernard, if we think about him as a character, he lost Meadows, who was not only his ally, but his potential lover. He's now shed himself of Sims, who was somebody that would do all the dirty work for him. So he's almost poking the bear and trying to find his new allies. Well, he didn't get Peter Nichols. He didn't get Sir Peter Nichols to bend the knee, but I think he got Lucas to bend both knees, if you get what I'm saying, Dave. So like, so he's got Lucas after one day in the mines, just like coming up looking like Jesus fucking Christ.
He was looking a little worse for wear after.
He was looking worse for wear after one day in the mines. And this is where I'm going to lean on both of you to kind of. Was there any part of season 1 that I'm either forgetting? Because, and I want to get to this at the very end of the episode, but I love the Discord for calling me out on some of our Lucas content. We're gonna get there, don't worry. But was there any spot where Bernard tipped his hand that he knew Lucas was plotting the stars the way he was? Because Bernard essentially says to him, like, I know you're plotting the stars. To me, I almost took it as, wow, is he watching the tape of Judge Meadows talking to Lucas? I don't know.
Well,
before I move on,
I thought she said that.
Did she say it to him?
So when I was watching, I thought he said that she said it in that scene. Like, I thought he said, I was told.
Yeah, but I didn't know. But did she ever tell him that?
I thought like when he was sizing her up for the suit, was that not that conversation?
I don't
personally, it was informed to Bernard that she had told him. I feel like I'm remembering this on screen, but I can't tell you exactly when, but I feel like she did say he knows about the stars. And
well, look, if you're going to call me out on dinner, if you're going to call me out on Lucas again, then you're going to have to do some fact finding for our next episode, Dave, to keep us moving. But look, he says, Lucas, I know you're plotting the stars. You're pretty damn close. So I'm going to kind of take it without knowing you too well that you must be a pretty smart guy, and you're going to work hard as hell for me because you don't want to go back down to the mines. And you're also going to use that brain of yours to maybe dig a little deeper than what just putting back together this relic. But he assigns Lucas, ultimately at gunpoint, the task of putting back together the hard drive. And Lucas does it with flying colors, earning himself another 24 hours outside of the mines. Let's go for Lucas. But he pieces together the connection that we have already seen, but he also draws the idea to Bernard that there is not only something coming out of the bottom of our silo here, but there's something coming out of judicial and IT as well.
And it's crazy that Bernard seemingly had no idea about these like tunnels or lines as Lucas described them on the map. But
yeah, I mean, I kind of took that as like,
is he not trying to show his hand?
Playing dumb because he's not going to be like, oh yeah, that's my line in my little keychain here of all the other silos. Like I don't think Lucas cracked that level of trust for him. But
this was hype though. I mean, this was amazing. This was a moment in the episode where I'm just sitting there, I'm like fist bumping. I'm like, this is the content that we live for.
I didn't personally kind of see that Lucas was going to get. I was thinking Lucas is going to be operating in the mines, teaming up with Billings, where meanwhile, no, it's a little bit more on the nose. Lucas, who star-crossed lover, which you hit up before, David. I mean, Lucas might become the new Sims for all we know, or the new Meadows, for Bernard, because Bernard has obviously got respect for his intellect, and he's kind of got him on his wrapped around his finger, doing what he wants, right?
If you
any thoughts on that interaction or anything I missed in that?
So if you have somebody as capable and smart, and as of now, Bernard is testing how capable Lucas is. But when he finds out how capable Lucas is and how intelligent Lucas is, and he has him under his thumb, knowing that, again, everything he does will be honest and will be as hard as he possibly can because his life is literally on the line. Bernard has a new Meadows that is his pawn, but it's actually his pawn that he can control. Somebody that he may find. We don't know how intelligent. We know Meadows was one of the most intelligent people in the entire silo, but Lucas is up there. So to have somebody that he can talk to, that he knows he controls, might be a big deal. Whether that turns into Lucas knowing so much and then flipping back to our side, or does Lucas have a heel turn?
Are we losing Lucas to Bernard's side of the fence? Or is Lucas going to become our new sex spy? Now Cooper. He's going to take up.
He'll be better than Coop. He'll be better than Coop. I have a feeling he'll be better than Coop. But I have to give the call out. PB and Jen. I was kind of like,
I think that look, PB and Jen. I wanted to wrap up the episode with this because it had my wheels turning that this could be an ongoing segment for the pod potentially. So I want to run that by you, and even the Rickroll stuff that Dave's talking about. It's just getting me going. So I want to come back to this, but PB and Jen just called me the fuck out, and I'm gonna have to.
You gotta put this guy in his place sometimes. So we love it, PB and Jen. We love it.
Oh, please don't stop putting me in my place. And we'll come back to that. But look, we got a little bit of time left, so I want to look at Billings and Patrick Kennedy. I want to look at our heroes, and I want to look at Camille. The ones that I think are the quickest to get through is our heroes that are traveling down.
Yeah.
We got Walk just making a move with Carla. We love
it.
So I'm loving what we're seeing there. And Carla's taking a hit for the team. So now we've lost Carla. She's one pawn that's off the board, unfortunately. But we did see her ability to kind of work behind the scenes. The couriers are something that we know are this faction, but we did get a little bit more into, hey, they do have leaders within the couriers, and they have the exclusive rights to kind of move everything around the silo. So they have a little bit more pull, pun intended.
Yeah, pun intended,
in making things move around in the silo, and all these relics that get disposed of, they have their hands on the bigger ones. I don't even think it's worth nitpicking. I mean, if we're going to suspend down 40 stories on this zip line with just like a rope tied harness around my waist, I think my torso is getting ripped off by the bottom of it.
They didn't even know how long the rope was. So it's like they could have either just hit the ground or traveled far enough that both of their backs are just completely in half.
I was just hoping that it was going to be something similar to when Jules falls and she hits the side, and I was hoping that they were just going to like keep hitting the side of the silo to just like kind of slow down their falls.
And in fairness, I mean, maybe I missed it, but I don't know exactly how many floors they went down. The biggest
it was enough.
The biggest thing is that they moved past the barrier, right? So that's in video game terms, like that was the obstacle they needed to jump. They did it. Their legs are still intact somehow. And we did see new Sims. I would categorize him as huffy. He's just like, oh man, like I'm gonna shoot this line, and then he's just throwing the thing down, and when it doesn't, like, meanwhile he's throwing that thing down, it's going down. God hope Teddy and the rest of the mechanicals not on the bottom floor like they were last episode, because if not, they're getting fucking crushed by that.
He was real accurate with dropping that thing down too. Like it could have easily hit any of the one levels above it, but it lands perfectly at where Knox was. It's like, damn, this guy's got a shot. Maybe he's not so useless.
Yeah, but this episode for them, I think the action in the episode was that it's not as much to talk about for the pod, but if we suspend the reality of using a zip line with sketchy ropes to get down, personally, I do think that the director of this episode did a great job of creating the excitement and the tension of them getting to and from these different floors and the obstacles that are coming up along the way. And we kind of leave this episode with our girl Carla kind of taking herself off the board to save Walk being able to move through our barrier. Yeah, being able to walk through our barrier. How many puns can we get in this one segment?
Yeah, let's keep trying.
Walk getting through our barrier with all the hubbub from our two class systems starting to battle it out, and Mechanical coming to the aid of Shirley and Knox, with Knox getting a pretty rad whiplash scar on his back, which again, maybe it's nothing, but as we saw in the finale of season 1 to now, there's never a big injury that they highlight that doesn't seem to come back. So Knox that's gotta hurt. That's gotta hurt getting just whiplashed right in the back with that thing. But to tell their story, It's going to bring us into Camille. So Camille Sims, I think you made a great point, Dave. Who's really pulling the strings of Sims' character, throughout all of season 1 and season 2? And we've seen a lot of their scheming in the background. But one of the common threads is that she used to work for him, but she used to be a part of judicial. So she talks about the intellect of someone like Meadows. Well, she's pretty goddamn devious herself. And while Bernard can see right freaking through it as quickly as we can, she is kind of flexing her ability to throw on her gear and pull some connections. And I think it was said best by the gentleman, I can't recall his name, who she essentially kicks out of his house.
I don't know if we got a name because all of my notes are just guy from janitorial or whatever.
Plumber. Yeah. He keeps the silo running with his plumbing, obviously. I mean, I don't disagree. If we were using a sewage system in this silo, we'd have some big fucking problems with that.
I agree.
But one of the things that he says to Knox and Shirley is like, you don't want to fuck with Camille.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think I'm buying it. What do you got, Jim? Jim, Dave, whoever wants to take it? What do you got? What do you guys think here?
I don't think Dave listened to our season 1 podcast because me and Tyler were saying that we were scared of Camille. All right. We said it.
We did, but Dave listened to it like enviously. I think he was just just waiting to get on.
Yeah, Dave was like, those bastards. I want to be on that pod.
Let them build the fame up, and then I'll just come in and steal the limelight. Love it.
She's definitely very capable. She's definitely pulling the string. She's going to be scarier than Sims overall, I believe. My question to you guys about her motivations, my original thoughts were that she was purposely trying to keep our homies Mechanical safe, Knox and Cheryl, so that it undermined new Sims, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the longer new Sims seems to be failing, the longer Bernard realizes OG Sims is actually an asset that needs to be back in his place. But you also have to assume that she would have known that she'd be called out for being the one that stashed them. So how is that plan fully intelligent? That's my question to you guys, because Bernard finds out right away. And if anything, he's even more pissed at the both of them, or at least Camille, but he's very pissed off, and it adds fuel to the fire.
I feel like we're running long, so I'm going to we'll get Camille wrapped, and then we'll go into Billings to close us out here. But my thoughts on Camille, I think her plan, she knew, was time bound, right? Because I think she's smart enough to know that eventually Bernard is going to see that she was the one. Now, two things though. It didn't happen right away. They got through the night, and it took the next day for Bernard to be like, what the fuck's going on? So it did accomplish what she was looking for. It did extend the timeline. And it's also a shot at Bernard being like, I have the ability to fuck with you as well. And when I think personally, they kind of intentionally frame Camille as like, oh, she used to work for Rob. He always reminds me of that. But I think her goal is gaining power within the silo. I think
I agree.
From season 1, when handcuffed to the door by Jules and she's slowly getting out of there all the way till now, I feel like she's been using Rob because she needs Rob to be in the spot that he's in if she wants to ascend to being the mayor or the head of IT. And if you think about it, she was in judicial, now she's in IT. She's kind of following that proximity to power line to get towards someone like Bernard. And she's clearly very intelligent in her ability to just use technology like she does in season 1. And she talks about how Meadows was so brilliant, but I think that she is brilliant, and behind the scenes, she has a plan that she needs Sims to be in charge of the security of the silo for her to be able to execute her plan.
Before we move on to the next one, last call out here is the Carla mentioning the Descender rig to Calvin. We did get reference to that in season 1 or no?
So we know that they're illegal in the silo. That's what
yeah, and if they're illegal, we kind of have to assume that people know that they exist, because why would they even be illegal? Yeah, they never said like, hey, we've got this thing. It's sitting down there in the courier's thing. The fact that they talk about it in season 1, the legality of these types of tools and different things like that, I mean, at least led me to believe that there existed multiple relics like them in the silo that could be used. The same way that in Silo 17, they created a pulley system to create the bridge and spur their rebellion, right? But that was kind of the way I took it. And
that's the only thing I really wanted to call out there.
No, it's a good point. And look, Billings, his distrust within Bernard and the pact comes full circle. And yeah, Patrick Kennedy, from all the things we were saying before, he was shot, so he did get hit with one of the bullets that Cooper tried to save him from and took the bullet for him. And he did escape from, in order, and has, his family that we already know about in Mechanical that he ties back to. I think Hank does a good job of proving his value to Billings, because Hank's knowledge of Mechanical is what gets them to, he knows the inner workings of the people and how they could tie back to Kennedy, and at least is able to leverage that alongside Billings to find Kennedy. But Billings shows Kennedy that he kept that page, right? He's got the page of our Georgia travel book, and Kennedy's going to tell him everything he knows if he can get him some safety, which Bernard's leaning on Billings. Bernard's trying to figure out who he can trust. Well, he's leaning on a double agent right now with Billings sitting in Mechanical, pretty much through his actions telling you that he doesn't believe that they would have killed Meadows, and he's going to side with Mechanical to try and find the truth.
Yep.
Jim, Dave, what were any of your takeaways from the interaction with Billings and his character development this episode?
I think that it's the trajectory that we were expecting, and like you said, Tyler, no foreplay. We're getting there with Billings. He is now going to be on our side, and he is going to be on the Mechanical side of this conflict. And for anyone listening, I guess they have revealed to us that Kennedy escaped himself from where he was, whether that was a dead body or not. I mean, geez, they thought they had 2 dead bodies. I don't know what the hell was going on there, but
we got some questioners for the coroners of Mechanical.
Yeah, he's the one who escaped. They came and they took Coop, but we haven't really heard Bernard be pissy about the fact that Kennedy's missing, which is kind of weird.
Billings and even Kennedy, I know that he ordered Sims to do it, but like Sims is the one who executed that whole plan, and he's now banished Sims to the pointless judge
Shadow Realm.
Yeah, he's banished into the Shadow Realm. So it's the loose end that like Bernard, through his own actions, just has the least amount of control over, right? Because Sims has been fucking up with his estimation of Billings the entire time. And that's all. It's like all those, what is it? They're coming to roost. All those chickens are coming to roost. All those chickens are coming to roost down in Mechanical.
Whatever
And I think, that's where we're left in this episode. In my mind, we've got Jules either getting saved by somebody outside or getting saved by Solo and learning what it's like to be in the vault, which is going to be huge. And we've got our heroes getting back home, and we've got Billings sketching out with Lucas pulling some turncoat shit on us. Jim?
One last thing that I want to bring up, which we talked about it, but we didn't really talk about in importance of. And that is the fact that there is a possibility now that Jules can get from 17 to 18 without having to go all the way down into the water, into the tunnels. If there's a passage through the vault, IT, whatever it is, whichever way they're going to have to do it, that's now a possibility. Whether Solo knows it exists or if this is very, very highly protected information that they're going to have to try to find out themselves, I don't know, but there is a possibility that Jules now has her trajectory back home.
We might be opening up a secret passageway.
She's gonna pull the Romeo and Juliet book in the bookcase, and the tunnel's gonna open up.
Exactly.
It spins around.
Well, look, we promised it before, but I'm gonna give a shout out to PB and Jen, one of our Discord members and one of our listeners. Look, there's a lot of content and a lot of takes being thrown out on these pods, and what I'd like to do, and we'll see if we can get this going, but I'm going to put it on our listeners both and our viewers from our YouTube and our Discord. But I think we need a chump of the week, right? A chump take of the week. And it's going to be me. It's going to be me really giving myself so many props for the mind pick, like just showering myself in praise. And lo and behold, PB Jen called me out, and I just go back and fast forward an episode in the end of season 1, and Bernard's just like, yeah, where do you want to go? The mines? Cleaning? It's like it was one of the 3 or 2 options that he did, and we know he didn't clean. So it's like, yeah, really nice job, Tyler. You nailed that one. So
you're such a chump, dude.
I am the inaugural chump of the week, but
love it.
Look, if anybody that's been listening to us this whole time, I absolutely love. Yeah, I love the interactive ability that we have to just talk with other people that love this show and love TV like us. And if we're missing something, I mean, I think there's plenty of chances for Dave to be chump of the week, honestly. But like,
I probably already had a title.
I'll let you guys go through our recent pods. But any other things that we get wrong, please call them out, because it's hilarious to me.
It's so fun.
I really want to keep it going, because God knows, not only did I not read the book, but I am not perfect here.
So,
PB and Jen, I see you. I'm looking for you now, PB and Jen.
BingetownTV.com/Discord. Join the fun with that. But I will say, Tyler, you keep me on track. So Theory Town doesn't run wild, but if Chump of the Week becomes a thing on all of our podcasts, like From or things like that, where I just run freaking wild with my theories and just throw everything at the wall, there's a lot of opportunities for me to become Chump of the Week when we get our reveals for shows. So maybe not for Silo, because Tyler, you keep me on track, but we'll see. I'm excited.
I definitely had a wild take a couple weeks ago, and I'm trying to remember what it was, but
we'll let our listeners get that one out. Bring Dave to account. I can't be the only
accountable too. Yeah.
We'll keep a tally, see who loses at the end of the season.
I'm just the most gregarious about my takes that I think I get right, so I deserved it.
Yeah, you admit confidence when giving your takes, where I'm like, I don't know, guys, and so people are like, okay, we can let that one slide.
Not anymore.
Yeah. Dave gives his take, and I'm just like, I don't know, and he's like, you know what? I don't know.
I disagree. I like to agree.
Nah, I feel you, man.
Well, great ep, guys. Another great ep. We're on the climb. We're descending and climbing at the same time. This is all rise. You know, Jim, let's lead us out.
As our boy Barney Stinson would say, it is all rise, baby. So if you guys like what you heard, check us out at BingetownTV.com. And like I said in the intro, just hit that subscribe button on this main feed now for our Apple TV content, because we're going to put all of our past content and we're going to be doing all of our future content on this one feed here. Severance will be coming in January. There's going to be a lot of other good shows that I'll be talking to my boys Dave and Tyler about for the future besides Severance. So there are plenty of Apple TV shows coming, and it will all be on this feed. So hit that subscribe button. The Bingetown TV feed will continue for now with Silo, Dune Prophecy, and shows that are currently airing. But then once they end, it will become a different feed, and it will be our drafts, Tyler, and our other bullshitting, basically interviews, anything that we're just like doing whatever the hell we want. Just some fun episodes will go there. But our certain recaps, our specific recaps, will have specific feeds now, with this one being the Apple TV feed. And we'll give you a lot more information when it comes to our other feeds as well. Otherwise, guys, we're here. We're at the second half of the season. We're rising, we're falling, we're descending, we're doing the damn thing. We'll be back next week. Once again, we are Bingetown TV, and thank you so much for listening. T-Money is a chump.